Good morning, January 19th, 2023. I'm stringing up olive oil and I'm feeling the nocks and the string to make sure that it's in the groove and everything's okay. It's actually more accurate to do that than to look at it. And they're all where they should be. I'll shoot olive oil a few times and see what I can get into with my mouth. Beautiful day here in South Georgia. Overcast. Whoop, I did it wrong. Very little wind. The chickens are competing with me in decibels, trying to drown me out. I have started wearing my quiver because my new method of shooting does not lend itself to holding arrows on the bow. All right, let's walk over here. Oh, let me show you something. I've been bragging about these camellias and all coming out, and look at that. It is opened up before our very eyes. This one here, just to give you an idea of the size of it. And I don't know if they have a smell or not. Let me see. I don't even know. It is beautiful smell, wonderful smell. It's rather fragrant, rather light smell. It's not real heavy, not very pungent, but it is a wonderful smell. And I can't say what it smells like. It smells like a camellia is all I can say. Okay, we'll keep you informed. There's got to be 100 of these things on here, so here's the next one that's trying to open up. Now I told you that there's a breeder around here, a hobby breeder that works with these. It's a friend of mine, and he gave me this one right here, and I'm very appreciative of it. We may get some of these later on and try to do some rooted cuttings, see if we can get these. I might even could send some of those shoots to some of you guys if you want one to root, you know, maybe wrap it in a paper towel if it's not too far away, if you like that. All right. How is my hurt finger going to do with olive oil? I'm not going to grip it and rip it. I'm just going to pull it back a little bit and make sure that I don't injure this tip of my finger anymore. Yeah, it has a little pain to it. Alright, take a picture of that. That's my first shot. Only the first shot counts. And I'm not pushing it with the shooting, but I don't want to quit completely. Second shot. Hey, I don't dare shoot again. I'll mess up that good average. All right, now, what I want to talk about today, we spend a good bit of time on YouTube keeping up with what is going on. I know I had a piece of paper. Okay, here it is right here. Where is my piece of paper? My piece of paper is hiding. Come on, piece of paper, get out of there. There it is right there. All I need is an outline. We found a story this morning. Oh, by the way, our internet connection went out. this morning around 6 o'clock, and as far as we know, it hasn't come back up yet. We don't know what's going on. This internet runs under the ground around here, and there's a substation down there about a mile, and then they go under the ground and they have these things that come out of the ground about that high, and sometimes those things have had to be looked at and worked on by the people. So we don't know whether it's gonna come back up or not. All right, it was all a lie. Dr. Leanna Nguyen says that only 6% of the attributed COVID deaths were really due to COVID. All right, and it has now been begrudgingly admitted on some of the mainstream media outlets. So a year ago, if you said something like this, you were considered a conspiracy theorist and ridiculed, and if you put it on YouTube, they would try to make sure that nobody saw it. Throw it in file 13. Now it is apparently slowly being admitted that it was the truth. Now this is how they did it. A certain number of people die every year in the United States and all over the world from different reasons. And what they did was they manipulated the statistics, and they twisted arms and probably threatened people that resisted them with, hey, you're not going to get the promotion you were expecting, and maybe move them to a lower job somewhere in the back 40 to get them to falsify the statistics. And what they were doing was they were saying on their statistical reports that people had died of COVID when they actually had died of something else, like diabetes, hypertension, whatever people die of, cancer, all these kind of things. And they would then test them for COVID, and if they had COVID or if they didn't have COVID, they would say on the report they died of COVID. Now, we also know that the COVID tests were not accurate. So if they had ways of manipulating that too. So they could give you a COVID test, and if it came up negative, they had a machine that tested. They could turn the knob up and test it again, and if it still didn't come back positive, they could turn it up again, and that they could eventually make it say that you had COVID, whether you had it or not. So they were manipulating the statistics. Now, we knew this all along. I could see it right from the very start. And we had a local case where a man died that I knew to have heart trouble, diabetes, and many other things. I knew him personally. He told me he didn't have long to live. The next thing you know, my sister calls me and she said, so-and-so died, and he died of it. I said, of what? She said, he died of COVID. Well, this man, since we knew these people, we got word that his family pushed back on that. And they said, wait a minute now, he died of all this other stuff. He didn't die of COVID. And then we found out that the coroners in Georgia were being instructed, manipulated, pushed into saying that people died of COVID, whether they did or not. The same thing. They can threaten them in all kinds of ways because they have control. Okay, so COVID didn't kill all those people. COVID apparently is the flu. The flu, what the report was, that only 6% could be of the number that they said had died, which they said millions and millions, only 6% could actually be said to die from COVID, which is the flu. It was all a big ruse. It was a big scam. It was disinformation. It was something to scare people. It was something to, they used the fake media and all of their compromised bureaucracies to push this out worldwide. And then they could manipulate people. They manipulated the voting system with this. That was the excuse they had of putting in all of this mail order ballots that were illegal, by the way, because the legislatures of those particular states did not make it legal to do that, and only the legislature can change the voting procedures. Bottom line is, they used the COVID thing. It's coming out now, okay? So whereas I was trying to tell people back in 2019, hey, they're lying about this. Well, the information was out there if you knew where to look for it, and it was on YouTube. Okay, another big piece of the news is the Twitter files are beginning to continue to come out. And the Twitter files are showing collaboration between the corrupt government and the social media companies, not just Twitter, YouTube and all of them, where they were using them to spread disinformation in order to try to get certain political outcomes like stealing elections. The FBI, the DOJ, the CIA, they were a bunch of them. You remember they had a time where they said 17 former agencies had confirmed that Russia colluded with the Russians, and then it was later proved to be totally made up and totally illegal. Okay, so you got what's really happening is that the swamp, that referred to by Trump as the swamp, he's draining the swamp. The swamp is the fabric of the entire nation. That is the politicians, the judicial system, academia, heads of corporations. All of these important people have been placed in these positions by the crooks. They're their people. And if a person does end up being in a high position that's not a swamp creature, they will make him into a swamp creature by blackmail or money. They'll buy them off, or they'll blackmail them with sexual blackmail. It's their specialty. This is what Jeffrey Epstein was. He was a specialist at sexual blackmail, and his co-conspirator Ghislaine Maxwell. Now, I still don't know why we can't find out what her real name was or why he pronounced it, but Ghislaine is about as close as I can get. She finally took the fall for it. Jeffrey Epstein, I honestly don't think he was killed. I think he's still alive, and I think that they have done a thing called there's a name for it when you flip somebody. Okay, this happened back during World War II, and it's happened all through the history of the earth. And what it is that you get a hold of a spy from the enemy. If you can get them, you can basically tell him, okay, you're going to be shot in the morning at sunrise, or you're going to work for us. Now, during World War II, the Germans had a program where they would fly into a fairly remote area of Great Britain and parachute in the middle of the night a spy. Now, this spy had to be somebody fluent in English, probably a German that was raised in England, and you couldn't tell from their language that they weren't native German, English. A lot of them got away with it. They would fall in their parachutes, they would bury their parachute, they would go off into the country and make themselves appear to be English, and they would spy. and they would send messages back to Germany. But a good number of them were captured alive. And they basically said, okay, you're going to be shot for a spy in the morning, or you're going to work for us. Well, I'd say almost all of them said, okay, I guess we're working for you now, because we're not really wanting to be shot in the morning. So the swamp, or the German spies were, many of them were flipped, and the Germans were badly hurt by that, because they had their spies now were our spies. Okay, the same thing has been happening with the swamp, in my opinion, since actually before Trump got in there. They are catching members of the swamp. They don't say anything, you won't see it in the news, but they are bringing them before tribunals and convicting them for treason, which can be done without the knowledge of the public. It's perfectly legal. And then they're saying, okay, and they convict them, say you're going to be shot in the morning, but then somebody comes in there after there's a lot of weeping and gnashing of teeth during the night, and they say, okay, how would you like to work for us? Or you're going to be shot. They're going to say, okay, I'll work for you. And by the way, instead of shooting you, we're going to give you a sentence of life in prison. Or if you do a really good job working for us, maybe even better than that. But if you don't do what you're told, well, we got ways of taking care of that too. Okay. The swamp then has been infiltrated the same way that the German spy system was infiltrated, by flipping the spies. Okay. Now, I believe that this is happening right now. And I believe that's why we're seeing the tide turn, the pendulum swing back the other way. We're seeing the Supreme Court now beginning to act like it should and uphold the Constitution. We're seeing the Roe versus Wade unconstitutional abortion decision has been overturned. These things are very, very important. The guns are now the ban on guns is now beginning to be struck down. It doesn't seem to be that big maybe, but I promise you these are big things. The swamp has been infiltrated. And there's another way to infiltrate the swamp, and they've been doing that too. It's just like if you have a gang out there. Let's just say you got a gang out there somewhere in Los Angeles, and they're doing bad things. Well, the FBI or some of those, the good ones, will go and they'll get one of their guys to dress up in leather and grow his hair and his beard long and all that kind of stuff, and try to join that gang and start spying on them. Now that's also happened. So a lot of these people that we don't really know, we think they're bad people. I'll tell you one of them we just can't make up our mind about, and that's Lindsey Graham. I don't know if he's a counter spy. I don't know if he was good all along. I don't know if he's still bad. I don't know about Lindsey Graham. But he's still alive, and he's still, doing things. All right, now, all of these things about subterfuge that the spy industry uses, they use camouflage, they use counter spies, they use disinformation. They have a myriad of different ways of infiltrating and trying to get what they need. Now, this is how it works into the spiritual thing. These same methods are used by, guess who? Beelzebub. Satan himself uses, the archangel of darkness uses many of these techniques, or all of them. He is the father of lies. All of these are lies. And he's using that on us. He's using that on the people to keep the people from coming to God. He's lying to us. He'll say, there is no God. We came from apes. We're going and sending rocket ships to Mars and taking pictures. All of these things, I think, are deceptions and they're lies, and they're not really happening. So, you got to beware of it. Okay, I'm going to tell you one other saying attributed to Abraham Lincoln. Now, I will mention the name of Yeshua the Messiah, otherwise known as Jesus Christ. He is the truth, the way, and the life. And what's the opposite of truth? Lie. Jesus is the Father of truth and light and life. The devil is the father of lies and darkness. They're opposites. Jesus is the truth. Satan is a lie. He's a liar. This saying was attributed to Abraham Lincoln. I'll tell you a little bit about that in a minute. But this is the saying. You can fool all of the people some of the time. And you can fool some of the people all of the time. But you can't fool all of the people all of the time. All right, we're just going to let this truck go by. We're going to watch him go by, and then I'll finish my little talk that I was giving. This is another one of our customers here. See you, Luke. So I'll say it again. Yeshua, Jesus, is the way, the truth, and the life. I used to think it was light. It's the life. And Satan is the wrong way, the lie, and death. The Satan is using these lies to keep you from coming to the light. All right? That's what's happening here. All right, this is Gardener Israel signing off.